The text message from my wife Sarah arrived while I was reviewing patient files at the clinic. Dinner at Emma's tonight. Her new boyfriend Victor will be there. 7 p.m. Please try to make it. I sighed, knowing what this meant. My sister-in-law Emma had been dating someone new for about 3 months, and according to Sarah, he was extremely successful and very impressive. Emma had always been the flashy one in the family. Designer clothes, luxury cars, Instagram posts from exotic locations. In contrast, Sarah and I lived modestly. I worked as a physical therapist at a community health center, and Sarah taught elementary school. We were comfortable, but we weren't wealthy. I texted back a simple "I'll be there" and returned to my work. That evening, I pulled up to Emma's townhouse in our 7-year-old sedan. The driveway already hosted 3 cars, Emma's white Mercedes, Sarah's practical Honda, and a gleaming black Porsche that practically screamed money. I took a deep breath and walked to the door. Emma answered with an exaggerated squeal. "Oh good, you made it. Come in, come in." She was wearing what looked like a $1,000 dress, her makeup flawless, her jewelry sparkling under the entrance lights. The living room was elegant, decorated in whites and greys with modern art on the walls. Sarah sat on the leather sofa next to a man who could only be Victor. He was tall, probably in his early 40s, with slicked back hair, a tailored suit that looked like it cost more than my monthly salary, and a gold watch that caught the light every time he moved his wrist. "Honey, this is Victor," Sarah said, standing up to greet me with a kiss on the cheek. "Victor, this is my husband." Victor remained seated, offering me a limp handshake without standing. "Hey there," he said, his tone barely interested. His eyes scanned me from head to toe, lingering on my off-the-rack blazer and department store shoes. Emma brought out champagne, Dom Perignon, she announced proudly, and we settled in for what I hoped would be a quick dinner. But as the evening progressed, it became clear that Victor had other plans. Over appetizers, he dominated the conversation, talking about his international business ventures, his portfolio of properties, and his recent trip to Monaco. Emma hung on his every word, Sarah smiled politely, and I ate my shrimp cocktail in silence. So, Victor finally turned his attention to me, swirling his champagne. "What is it you do again?" Sarah mentioned something about therapy. "Physical therapy," I clarified. "I work at a community health center, helping patients recover from injuries and manage chronic conditions." Victor's lip curled slightly. "Community health center. That's charitable of you." The way he said charitable made it sound like an insult. Must be tough, working with, those kinds of people. I felt Sarah tense beside me. "It's rewarding work," I said evenly. "I help people regain their mobility and independence." Right, Victor said, waving his hand dismissively. "But I mean, what's that pay? 50,000 a year." The room fell silent. Emma looked uncomfortable, Sarah's face flushed, but neither said anything. "It pays enough," I replied. Victor leaned back, a smirk playing on his lips. "See, that's the difference between men like you and men like me. You're content with enough. I'm never satisfied. That's why I drive a Porsche and you drive. What was that in the driveway?" "A Camry." "Honda Accord," I corrected quietly, feeling something cold settle in my stomach. This was going to be a long dinner. Dinner was served, filet mignon with truffle butter, Emma announced, and Victor's assault on my dignity continued. "You know what the problem is with this generation," Victor said, cutting into his steak with exaggerated precision. "No ambition. No drive. Men are content to be worker bees, punching clocks, living paycheck to paycheck. It's pathetic, really." He looked directly at me as he said this. "Not everyone measures success by their bank account," I said, keeping my voice calm despite the anger building inside me. Victor laughed, a sharp, mocking sound. "Of course you'd say that. That's what people who failed financially always say. It's like overweight people claiming they're big-boned. Just excuses for mediocrity." Emma giggled nervously. Sarah said, "Victor, that's a bit harsh." "Harsh?" Victor interrupted. "No, I'm being honest. Someone needs to tell him. Look at you, he gestured at me with his knife. You're what, 35? 36. And what do you have to show for it? A rental house? A budget car? Your wife working because you can't provide for her properly? We own our home, actually, I said quietly. And Sarah works because she loves teaching, not because she has to. Oh, a starter home, I'm sure, Victor sneered. What's it worth? 200,000? That's cute. I spend more than that on watches. He held up his wrist, showing off the gold timepiece. This is a Patek Philippe Grand Complications. Cost me 180,000. That's just one watch. I have 7 others at home. I caught Sarah's eye. She looked mortified, but still, she said nothing. Emma was refilling Victor's wine glass, laughing at something he'd just whispered to her. Something inside me made a decision. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice recorder app, and casually set it on the table beside my plate, screen down. No one noticed. You want to know what a real man looks like? Victor continued, emboldened by the wine and his audience. A real man dominates. He conquers. He doesn't settle for helping poor people walk again for minimum wage. A real man builds empires. And what empire have you built? I asked, taking a sip of wine. I own 3 businesses, Victor said proudly. Import-export, luxury goods, and a consulting firm. I have offices in 4 countries. I make more in a month than you probably make in 5 years. Impressive, I said neutrally. What exactly do you import and export? High-end goods. Art, jewelry, rare collectibles. I have connections all over Europe and Asia. Things you wouldn't understand. I nodded slowly, my phone recording every word. Victor wasn't done. For the next 30 minutes, he continued his assault. He mocked my profession, wiping old people's drool and stretching their legs. How fulfilling. My car. I wouldn't let my gardener drive something that cheap. My clothes. You look like you shop at a discount warehouse. And even my marriage. Emma tells me you've been married. What, 8 years? No kids yet? Probably can't afford them, right? He laughed. Or maybe Sarah's waiting to see if you'll ever amount to something before she commits to breeding with you. That was the line. Sarah stood up abruptly. I need to use the restroom, she said, her voice tight. Emma followed her, leaving Victor and me alone at the table. Victor leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that my phone captured perfectly. Let me give you some advice, man to man. Your wife is a beautiful woman. Educated. Classy. She could do so much better than you. If I were you, I'd be worried. Women like her, they don't stay with losers forever. Eventually, they wake up and realize they deserve a real man. Someone who can give them the life they deserve. I met his eyes steadily. Is that so? That's so, he said, leaning back with satisfaction. Just being honest. You seem like a nice guy, but nice doesn't pay the bills. Nice doesn't buy the lifestyle. Nice guys finish last, and winners like me. He gestured around Emma's expensive townhouse. We finish first. The rest of dinner passed in uncomfortable silence. Sarah barely spoke, Emma seemed oblivious to the tension, and Victor continued drinking expensive wine while checking his phone constantly. When dessert was finally served, creme brulee that I barely tasted, I excused myself to the bathroom. But instead of going to the bathroom, I stood in Emma's hallway and did something I'd never done before. I opened my own phone and started researching. Victor Ashford Luxury Import, I typed. Nothing significant came up. I tried Victor Ashford Consulting Firm. Still nothing. Victor Ashford International Business. A few generic LinkedIn profiles, but none that matched the man in the other room with his supposed empire. That was odd. Someone as successful as Victor claimed to be should have some digital footprint, company websites, business registrations, news articles, something. But there was nothing. I tried a different approach. I went to the website for the state's business registry and searched for any companies registered under his name. 0 results. I checked neighboring states. Nothing. My hands were shaking slightly as I typed one more search: Victor Ashford arrest and Victor Ashford warrant. The screen loaded, and my breath caught. There he was. Same face, same name, but with 3 different aliases listed: Victor Montgomery, Vincent Ashworth, V.A. Ashford. Multiple arrest warrants across 3 states. Fraud. Grand larceny. Identity theft. Investment scams. The most recent warrant had been issued just 6 weeks ago in California for defrauding investors of over $2 million in a fake luxury goods import scheme. I stood in that hallway, my heart pounding, reading through case after case. Victor was a con artist, a professional one. His pattern was always the same: target wealthy women, particularly those with access to family money or business connections. Wine and dine them, flash fake wealth, gain their trust, then convince them to invest in his businesses. He'd also been accused of identity theft, using his girlfriend's information to open credit cards and take out loans. I took screenshots of everything: the warrants, the case numbers, the detailed descriptions of his schemes. Then I carefully saved the voice recording from dinner, backed it up to my cloud storage, and returned to the dining room. Victor was regaling the women with a story about meeting a sheikh in Dubai. So I told him, "Your Excellency, if you want real profit, you invest with me." And he did. $2 million, just like that. He snapped his fingers. I watched him carefully. The expensive suit, the luxury watch, the Porsche in the driveway, all props. All part of the con. And Emma, dear, trusting Emma, was falling for every word. "That's amazing, Victor," Emma gushed. "You're so worldly and successful." "Actually," Victor said, turning to her with what looked like sudden inspiration, "I've been meaning to talk to you about an investment opportunity. My firm is expanding into rare gemstones, and I'm offering exclusive investment spots to people I trust. The returns are extraordinary. We're talking 40% annually, guaranteed." My stomach dropped. Here it was. The con. Really? Emma's eyes lit up. "How much would someone need to invest?" "For you, beautiful, I could arrange a special entry point. Maybe start with 50,000? Though if you could swing 100, the returns would be even better." Sarah caught my eye across the table. I saw the question there. Should she say something? I gave the smallest shake of my head. "Not yet. Let me think about it," Emma said, already mentally committed, I could tell. "Don't think too long," Victor said smoothly. "This opportunity won't last. I have other investors lined up, but I wanted to offer it to you first because you're special to me." Emma actually blushed. The evening finally ended around 11. Victor made a show of picking up the check at the restaurant they'd ordered the steaks from. No, I insist, I won't hear of splitting it, while I noticed Emma had actually been the one who paid for everything else. In the car, Sarah exploded. "I am so sorry. I had no idea he would be like that. The way he talked to you, about you, it was completely unacceptable." "It's fine," I said, my mind racing with what I'd discovered. "It's not fine. Emma just sat there. She let him humiliate you." I waited until we got home to tell Sarah what I'd found. We sat at our kitchen table, our modest, paid-for kitchen table in our modest, paid-for house, and I showed her everything. The warrants. The fraud cases. The pattern of targeting women exactly like Emma. Sarah's face went white as she scrolled through the information. Oh my God. Emma's going to invest with him. She mentioned last week that she'd been thinking about moving some money around, maybe making some exciting investments instead of leaving everything in her boring retirement accounts. How much does she have accessible? At least $300,000 from when she sold her business last year. She's been keeping it liquid while she decides what to do with it. $300,000. Victor had already identified his target amount, and Emma was walking right into his trap. "We have to tell her," Sarah said. "We will," I agreed. "But we need to do this carefully. Emma's in love with him, or at least in love with the idea of him. If we just show her this, she might not believe us. She might think we're jealous or making it up." Sarah nodded slowly. "So what do we do?" I thought about the recording on my phone. Victor's words, his mockery, his admission about his businesses, his pitch to Emma about the investment scheme. Then I thought about the warrants, the evidence, the pattern. I'm going to send everything to the authorities, I said. The FBI handles interstate fraud. I'll send them the recording, show them that he's actively running a con, that he's in our state using a known alias, and that he's in the process of defrauding another victim. Will they act on it? With active warrants? Yes. They'll have to. That night, I composed a detailed email to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center and the local field office. I attached the screenshots of the warrants, explained that the suspect was in our area under the name Victor Ashford, provided Emma's address, and included the audio recording from dinner. I noted that he was currently in the process of soliciting a large investment from a new victim and that time was of the essence. I sent it at 2 a.m., unable to sleep. The next morning, I sent a similar package to the state police and the county sheriff's office, just to cover all bases. Then I waited. 2 days passed. Emma called Sarah, gushing about Victor. He's so amazing. We're going to his bank tomorrow to discuss the investment. He's introducing me to his wealth manager. His fake wealth manager, I thought. Part of the con. 3 days after dinner, Sarah received a text from Emma. Emergency. Call me. We called immediately. Emma was crying. The police came to my house. They are looking for Victor. They said he's wanted for fraud. There are officers at his apartment right now. Where is he? Sarah asked, her voice carefully neutral. His. I don't know. He left this morning saying he had a meeting in the city. He won't answer his phone. What is happening? 4 days after the dinner, Emma called again. This time her voice was different, smaller, scared, ashamed. Victor's been arrested, she whispered. It was all fake. The business, the success, everything. The police said he's wanted in 3 states. They said he was going to steal from me. The full story came out over the following week. Victor, whose real name was actually Vincent Mallory, had been arrested at a hotel downtown, where he'd been staying while pretending to have a luxury apartment. The Porsche was leased under a fake identity. The watch was a convincing replica. The suit was rented. Even the stories about Monaco and Dubai were fabricated from travel blogs and magazines. The FBI agent who contacted Emma explained that an anonymous tip had provided them with Victor's location and evidence of an active fraud scheme. The voice recording had been particularly valuable, as it captured him soliciting an investment in a non-existent business, caught in the act. Emma was devastated. Not just because she'd been fooled, but because of how she'd behaved. She called me directly, something she rarely did. I need to apologize, she said, her voice thick with tears. The way Victor talked to you at dinner, the things he said, and I just sat there. I laughed. I let him humiliate you in my own home because I was so dazzled by what I thought he was. I'm so ashamed. Emma. No, let me finish. You and Sarah, you have something real. You built a life together based on actual values, actual work, actual love. And I mocked that. I've always looked down on it because it wasn't flashy enough, wasn't exciting enough. But you know what? Your life is real. Mine was a fantasy, and I almost paid $300,000 for it. I didn't tell her that I was the anonymous tipster. That wasn't the point. Sarah and I decided that Emma didn't need to know that we'd been the ones to bring Victor down. She just needed to know that we were there for her. The local news picked up the story, multi-state con artist arrested after targeting local woman. Victor's, Vincent's, picture was plastered across the internet. Turned out he defrauded over a dozen women across the country out of nearly $8 million total. Each time, the pattern was the same: fake wealth, fake business, real charm, and devastating consequences. 2 weeks after the arrest, Emma invited us over again. This time, it was just the 3 of us. No Victor, no champagne, no pretense. We ordered pizza and sat in her living room in comfortable clothes. I've been thinking a lot, Emma said, about what's really valuable. Victor said a real man dominates and conquers and builds empires. But you know what a real man actually does? She looked at me. A real man shows up every day and helps people heal. A real man treats his wife as an equal partner. A real man doesn't need to put others down to feel big. A real man has integrity, even when someone's mocking him to his face. Sarah reached over and squeezed my hand. "Thank you for not saying I told you so," Emma continued. "Thank you for being here, even after how I treated you. I'm going to be more careful about what I value, and more appreciative of the people who actually matter." Later that night, as Sarah and I drove home in our practical Honda Accord to our modest paid-for house, she asked me something. Did it feel good when he got arrested? I thought about it carefully. Not really. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because he was going to hurt your sister, and probably dozens more women after her. The things he said at dinner, they didn't matter. They were just words from a desperate man playing a role. But the harm he would have done to Emma, to her finances, her trust, her sense of self, that mattered. Sarah leaned her head on my shoulder at a red light. "You're a good man. A real man. No matter what some con artist in a fake Rolex says." I smiled. "It was a Patek Philippe, allegedly." "Allegedly," she laughed. The recording stayed on my phone for a while. Sometimes I'd play back Victor's words. "You're not a real man. You're mediocre. Your wife will leave you. You're a loser." And then I'd look at my life, my real life. The patients who thanked me for helping them walk again. The wife who chose me every day. The home we built together. The values we shared. The integrity we maintained. Victor had been right about one thing. Nice guys don't finish last. Honest guys do finish. They finish with something real. The charges against Vincent Mallory included fraud, identity theft, grand larceny, and a dozen other counts across multiple jurisdictions. His trial was set for the following year, and prosecutors estimated he'd face 15 to 20 years in prison. Emma started therapy and joined a support group for fraud victims. She became an advocate, sharing her story to help others recognize the warning signs of financial predators. She sold some of her designer items and donated the money to organizations that help victims of financial crimes. As for that dinner recording, I kept it, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. A reminder that real wealth isn't measured in Porsches or Rolex watches or Monaco trips. Real wealth is measured in character, integrity, and the strength to do the right thing even when someone's trying to break you down. Victor mocked me for helping people walk again, for driving a practical car, for living a modest life. But in the end, I was free and he was in handcuffs. I was home with someone who loved me, and he was facing decades in prison. I was sleeping peacefully, and he was living with the consequences of his choices. So who was the real man after all? The answer was clear to everyone except Victor, right up until the moment those handcuffs clicked shut.